Hey, I am Dr. Hannah Hamlin and welcome to my MDI series. Today is part 3 and we are going to talk about all things shots with insulin management. Actually, probably not all things. There's so much to learn. I am still learning, but we are covering tips that have worked for me on shots. Now, I said this earlier, but I want to repeat it because I think it's that important, is that it is absolutely possible to have well-managed blood sugar on shots just like it is on an insulin pump. I don't see that one is superior than another for potential outcomes. Some may have pros and cons, some may be easier in certain ways than others, but it's possible. And so if you're on shots, whether it's your choice or because of insurance funding reasons, that's okay. I think you can get to your goals. I've seen it happen. I've got lots of examples, people in my life that have proven it to me, and I've proven it to myself. So I am talking about tips for shots. And again, I'm not your doctor. I'm just a doctor with type 1. So these are what work for me. It's important you talk to your doctor before implementing things that you learn on this channel as a whole. So today we are going to talk about treating lows appropriately. And this is way easier said than done. And you know that if you've had a low where you wanted to, or may have eaten most of what was tasty in your refrigerator. So I think that lows have this misconception. We talk about over eating lows, over treating lows, having highs after lows that can spike ourselves and then create a roller coaster for the day. Those things happen, but understanding lows a little bit more can be helpful, and successfully treating a low where you don't have a repeat low or have a concurrent high feels good and allows you to get on with the life things that you want to do better. I think actually sitting through a low, so let's just start with a real example. If my blood sugar is 45, we're going to start super low. If you have been 45 before, which if you've had type 1 diabetes for a while, I would assume you probably have at some point, you feel typically not like yourself, and everybody responds differently. Physiologically, there's no right or wrong way. You may not feel lows. You may feel lows excessively. There's a whole variety, but for me, when I am 45, I feel sweaty. My hands are shaky. I feel a little lightheaded. I don't think dizzy is the right word, but lightheaded might be. And the biggest thing is I notice I have a hard time focusing and a really hard time making decisions. Like if I'm low and I'm doing something, let's say I'm working, I'm typing notes, from my patient appointment on my computer, and I'm low, I'll be like, oh, I know I need to go treat my low. Like I need a snack. So I'll be thinking about all the things in my kitchen, and then I'll say, oh, like I could do this or I could do that, but that doesn't sound good. And then I'm thinking about what to do about my low for way longer than I need to be. I keep getting lower. I just need to go, treat it. And that happens, I guess, less often now that I've got these techniques around it, but that's something that a lot of us experience. And sometimes I don't think we know that we do that because we're in the moment, we're in this fight or flight state. So I like to talk about the nervous system, very oversimplified, but we've kind of got these two predominant nervous systems, and they don't really work like this on or off situation. It's kind of like a seesaw. So we have our fight or flight nervous system. This is going to be fight, flight, freeze. And that's going to be this kind of sympathetic nervous system that kicks in, that tells us we're in trouble. It's going to change the state of our nervous system. It's going to change our hormones. It'll even change our heart rate often, and it will tell us, hey, we need to do something. It kind of puts us in this alarm state. The other side of our nervous system on the seesaw is the parasympathetic nervous system. This is known as the rest and digest nervous system. This is kind of that more calm feeling and really kind of this state that we are in, or kind of work, our human body works well when we are in most of the time. Let me turn my notes back on here. And this parasympathetic state is where we will be ideally most of the time. It's kind of the thought is we've got the seesaw, we're mostly parasympathetic, our sympathetic turns on. We are hunter-gatherers, we are running around in our tribe, we see a lion, we all have to run from the lion, our sympathetic turns on temporarily, and then we are running from the lion, our heart rate's up, we're focused, we get better blood flow to our muscles, we're sprinting, and then we get to a place where we're safe, and over time we calm back down, and then we're back into that parasympathetic. Now, Low blood sugars are a fearful state for your body. You don't have to know that. Cognitively, your body knows it. If you had had a low blood sugar before you even knew what blood sugar was, you would respond with this sympathetic dominance, this fight or flight state. And what happens is our cells know, hey, something's wrong, something's putting us in danger. We need to upregulate, this type of side of the nervous system. So when we are in this impending danger, which would ultimately be very low blood sugar, our nervous system changes. It causes us to be shaky, causes us to release hormones that are associated with that acute stress, that high stress. It causes us to change what we're able to do. Now, the trouble decision making is often when your blood sugar gets really low, you don't have that glucose in your cells to be able to use your brain cells in a way where they're functioning optimally, right? So it's just a little bit harder to think, harder to function. I used to remember when I was studying a lot in school, if I was reading and I caught myself like rereading a sentence a couple times, I would think, oh, I bet I'm low. And often I would check and I was. And it's funny, it just like changes our brain's optimal function. And I could notice it, when I was having a lot of repetition in what I was doing. The point here though, is that when we are in that fight or flight state nervous system, it's harder to make decisions other than to run as fast as we can away from the lion, which is the modern day blood sugar equivalent of eat everything with sugar in our fridge, or at least want to. And so with that, we have to get to this place where we understand when we are low, our body is going to be screaming from the inside out, eat all of the carbs, right? Eat the whole sleeve of Oreos if you eat Oreos at home. Or for me, it happened to me earlier this week, I ate the whole banana, right? That was too many carbs. I probably, for my low at that time, I probably needed 7 or 8 carbs, and I ate all 27 of them in my small banana. So the point is that you are going to want to eat more because your body is trying to save itself. Now, what cognitively, at least now, after watching this video, is that you probably don't need all the carbs that you're going to want to eat. And having that override of that, gosh, I feel like I'm not doing well. I feel like I'm in this state of fight or flight. I feel like my nervous system is, a wreck, or really, inflamed, or kind of at its top peak. I want to do whatever it takes to feel better. We're going to want to overtreat the low. That's going to happen. And we live in this state now where we have type 1 diabetes. Our kind of cycles aren't, optimized because we don't make insulin. And so it's going to be important for our brains to take over in that moment and say, hey, I don't actually need all of those carbs. I just need to eat a certain amount that I cognitively know will get my blood sugar back to that range, or, usually with my ratios will get me into a range I want to be in. And I need to wait. And the waiting is hard. So distracting yourself can help. Now, I'm really focusing on lows in this MDI kind of series because we now have these insulin pumps that are automated that will turn off insulin and help prevent a lot of lows. So where we're seeing, I think, kind of more severe lows, or lows that are going to come on throughout the day, you will be treating more, maybe just because you'll have more kind of wiggles in your graph that will allow you to need to preemptively treat lows, after they happen. And it's really important to get that right, because on shots, your insulin pump is not going to turn off your basal rate when you're dropping, and like these new pumps will do, it's not going to increase your basal rate when you're spiking too high either. And so you really want to get this right. So with that, what we're looking at here is, let's go back to the 45 example. My blood sugar is 45, I'm fight or flight. My hands are shaky, I can't decide what I want to eat out of my kitchen. I'm sweaty and I don't feel good. I might even feel angry and irritable. And sometimes that happens where I'm just like, oh, I'm low again. I wanted to finish this project and go do something I wanted to do, and I have to take, minutes to not feel good and go treat it. Now, what's going to happen is I'm gonna have grace with myself and say, hey, it's okay to be frustrated. You were in a fight or flight nervous system, right? That's like yelling when you're, seeing a car coming, get out the way. You might feel more angry because you're in fight or flight. Your nervous system is I gotta save myself. So some of those thoughts that come up when you're extremely low, that's okay. Just say it's all right. This is happening. You might have to give yourself a pep talk after. I give myself a lot of pep talks. So I'm 45, I'm shaky, I'm doing my notes. What do I do? First, I need to think about how many carbs it's going to take for me to get back to a normal range, and what I'm about to do. I'm about to go walk my dogs, or am I about to go back to doing my notes for another 2 hours and be sedentary? In the event that I'm not going to do exercise after the low, what I'll do is think about, okay, how many carbs is it going to take for me to get my blood sugar up to, let's say, 90? So that's 45 points. So if I know that 1 gram of carbohydrate increases my blood sugar by X number of carbs, that will allow me to understand how many carbs. This is something that is worth calculating over time. What's going to make a difference too is, am I 45 because I was just super flatlined and then low, or am I 45 double down arrow and I need to kind of account for where I am adjusting and if I'm going to get any lower before I come back up. So what I want to do is figure out how many carbs for me. Now that's absolutely talk to your doctor about, figure that out. There are calculations. We'll talk about that another time. But essentially, if I were to eat or drink 30 grams of apple juice, I'd probably be high, in that setting. If I were to have 12 grams of apple juice, that might be the right amount to bring me back to 90 or 100. So I will measure out 12 grams of apple juice, and I will drink that, or I'll have X number of glucose tabs. But what I do is I reserve something in my house and in my purse and in my gym bag, and in my, the car for a low, that I know how many carbs, I can calculate it quickly, and I kind of have this idea of how much I need so that I don't have to decide mid-low, because that's hard and that doesn't work for me. Well, usually. So what I will do is I will kind of have this thing, my go-to thing. So I will, let's say I'm 45, I'll drink my 12 carbs of apple juice, and now I have to wait. What's important to know with low blood sugars is, let's say I was like, okay, treated my low, I'm gonna go now do chores around the house, and maybe I'm sweeping and walking around. When we are moving, we are not digesting as well. We've got this rest and digest nervous system. So if I were to sit down, take some deep breaths, once I started feeling better, maybe focus back on my notes, I'm gonna digest that low snack faster than if I decide to go sweep my kitchen and I'm moving all around my apartment. And that's important to understand, because I think sometimes we forget that it just takes a little bit of rest if we want that low to kick in sooner. And for me, that makes a big difference. So usually what I like to do, let's say I'm at 45, I had my 12 grams apple juice, I sit back down. I like to do things, and this is totally my preference, to try and calm myself back down. So I might take some deep breaths, just slow down instead of focusing back on the notes, take a minute to do something that's more relaxing so that I can intentionally make efforts to move myself back into that rest and digest nervous system so that I'm not feeling so fight or flight and uptight and stressed out. Then I will wait and I will watch the graph. I would usually give myself 15, 20 minutes to see that I'm moving in the right direction. Now, if I notice that I'm not moving and I'm still 45, I will absolutely retreat. But it's really, really, really important to remember that on a continuous glucose monitor, the Dexcom, the Freestyle Libre, really all of them, I can't think of the Medtronic one right now, they all run 10 minutes behind, because the way that continuous glucose monitors work is they are testing the glucose in the interstitial fluid instead of our blood fluid, and that's about 10 minutes behind real-time blood sugar. And so what happens is let's say I'm 45, I start coming up, it's 15 minutes later, my blood sugar's 65. But I can see that the graph is increasing in this direction, right? It's increasing slowly. That number, that 65, when I look at it at the 15-minute point after I treated the low, is 10 minutes behind. So if I estimate 10 minutes ahead on the graph, if I'm increasing, would I likely be at a higher level where I wouldn't need to retreat? Yeah, I probably would. I would probably be at 85 or 90 already, where I wouldn't need to retreat. So if I then take more low snack, if I have more apple juice, I may spike myself up into the 150s and 60s. If I wait a little bit longer, because I'm trusting my body, I'm feeling better, I'm seeing the graph going up, I understand how much glucose it normally takes for me to get up there, it's what I choose to do is watch and wait, that 65 turn up, to 70, 80, 90, get to where I want to be. That's hard. You have to trust your settings. You have to understand that's what's going on, but it's really common. And I did this for a long time, and I saw a lot of people do this this summer when I was working with a bunch of people with type 1 diabetes, is it's really common to trust the CGM, like the number is exactly what it is. And so we'll be low, we'll wait 10 to 15 minutes, we'll still be low, we'll retreat, and then we'll wait 10 to 15 minutes. Maybe we'll do it again or we won't. It doesn't matter. You'll probably pop yourself up way higher than you want to be because you didn't think about that 10-minute lag. And so that is an important part of treating lows. And thanks for being here. So I will have one more episode of my MDI series. If you haven't subscribed already, again, that would mean a whole lot to me. And I hope to see you at the next one. Thanks.